part of the Earglue Media family of podcasts.
You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cantina Cast. Welcome back to the Cantina Cast. This is episode 309, The Dead Speak, Emperor Palpatine. So we are finally at the moment. We are finally going to get to break down Emperor Palpatine, talk about his presence within the Rise of Skywalker, and some of that which led up to the Rise of Skywalker as well. And to do that, I figured, what a great opportunity. I can't think of a better person to host this show with me than none other than the Dark Lord of Podcasting, Mr. Mike Rondo. Mike, welcome back to the show. Are you ready to finally get into your persona, your alternate persona here?
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Just hopefully, as we do this, some answers will come to me, because I'm very confused on why my friend Palpatine is backing away. Like, a lot of things are making me scratch my head. So maybe tonight we can flush out some of those things, and I'll feel a little bit better about it. Although I think we need some novels and some comics and, I don't know, some backstory to kind of flush this all out and make sense to me.
Yeah, you're stealing both of our thunders, because I think we're both going to agree on that point here later.
Oh, all right.
But
well, very good. Well, the show's over, everybody. Hey.
Have a good time. We'll see you next week. And apologies for being off. I think my family got hit with the plague, so it actually worked out really well that we just took some time off to get all that done, and we're back. So,
well, we needed a rest. You know, it's good to rest up a little bit here, so that's good. The family comes first. You got to rest them up and take care of them, Albert. Yeah. So, I get it. Tis the season. To be honest, really I'm surprised I haven't been sick quite yet. I felt a little under the weather, but I've wrestled off the bad stuff. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the news. And not a whole lot going on. I guess it's been about 2 weeks now, and we're not going to cover everything because there really has been other things, but I kind of just picked up 3 of the bigger juicy nuggets that I thought we could maybe talk about. And let's start with the Rise of Skywalker. It crossed $1 billion, sometime last week, maybe even just prior to that, the week before, the very tail end of that week or the weekend. But nonetheless, $1 billion in the bank. And I saw a magazine article from Forbes magazine asking whether or not it was going to be able to, if Star Wars was going to be able to recover. And if you can elaborate on or give me your thoughts on whether this thing was a success or failure. Maybe I'll look up the exact quote, but it's almost just, I don't know, the audacity that they would say that whether or not Star Wars is going to recover after a movie makes $1 billion. I don't know if that's really fair. Is it?
Those are Star Wars problems, right?
Yeah, exactly. No other franchise.
We only did $1 billion. I think in the context that they were trying to get at, or the writer of it was trying to get at, or even fans' perspective, is because Star Wars and now recently with Marvel, the MCU, there's a high bar with those IPs or franchises, right? So if it doesn't do $1 billion, it's kind of, or if it only just does $1 billion, although I think it's gone over that now, right? Yeah. I would assume by the time we're recording this, not by much. But I got to say, first off, it seems like 5 months ago that the Rise of Skywalker came out. I don't know, it just seems so long ago. But in any case, I see it as a failure in the sense that it's Star Wars, and Star Wars should always, it's $1 billion, but it should have done it sooner than that. But times are changing. Who knows what's what? It's still $1 billion that I wish I had in my bank account. So Disney's not going to complain too much with that $1 billion. Of course, you take the cost of making the movie and everything. It kind of just breaks even or something. I don't know. But I don't know, Albert. What do you think? Is this a success, a failure? How do you see it? Traditionally, if I remember right, when we go back to those old episodes that we used to do back in the day, the third movie always makes significantly less than the other two in Star Wars. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it's not, I don't see it as a failure, I guess, in any sense of the way. Even with the problems that I have with the movie itself. I just, a $1 billion is just one more $1 billion they didn't have before. And if they're looking at this from, an individual movie by movie basis, I can I can see, though I don't agree, I can see where they're coming from or the logic is. I think the logic's flawed because really the whole point of this trilogy was to earn back all the money that it made from the sell, right, of George Lucas. We got that from the Bob Iger book. So if from that perspective, at least from what Disney was setting out to do, it's been hugely successful. I think they've earned that back and then some, or at least they've broken even. So it's kind of a clean slate. They can kind of get started. I mean, they've got, whether or not it's Star Wars is a failure at this point, I think is absolutely asinine because.
I don't think, no. I mean,
yeah, they've got all kinds of avenues now, opportunities here to do whatever they want with the Star Wars and branding, the name and the characters and the theme and the mythology and all that. So, I mean, it's just, they're playing the long game here. If you're looking at it very from a microscopic view, yeah, I can see where someone could be obtuse in that sense. But anyways, that's my 2 cents. That's my 1 billion cents.
All right. Well, that's quite the sense.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Colin Treverrow Duel of Fates script. So this was long rumored to have been out there. At one point, I think Jason Ward had posted some stuff about him. He had posted some stuff about what he thought the script was, and there were some things that weren't clarified there. Or I guess he got wrong, and then Trevorrow responded on Twitter and said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And so that went back and forth about what was real, what was not. And come fast forward to last week or within the last 10 days. And we now know that there have been a few select people that have actually read the script and commented, and there's a whole breakdown. There's a couple different websites, legit websites. You can go and take a look at some of the ideas and things that happened in that original script. I'm cool enough. I guess it was called Duel of Fates, which I thought was kind of neat. But that was the original title of the script. It had its own crawl and everything else. And I guess just we can honestly do a whole show on this, right? And speculate about what worked or what didn't. But was there anything that stood out for you? Anything that you thought, hey, that would have been cool, or I'm glad they didn't do that? And I guess overall, what did you think of that script as opposed to the one that we got from J.J. Abrams and I'm drawing a blank on the other dude's name now. But anyways, how compared to the?
I don't know. It seemed, I don't know. It's like, all right, okay. I don't know why it's just not like a big deal with me. Like it's not resonating. Like oh wow. It's like the whole JJ cut thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, whatever. All right, can we move on from this now?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being too pessimistic here, but I thought it seemed to me like from based on what I read about it or brushed over. So take this with a grain of salt, as they like to say. It seemed like a lot of stuff that was in the Rise of Skywalker is just reversed a little bit and changed up a little bit. So for me, it was like, all right, maybe more of the same. I'm confused because this is why I have a hard time buying all of this here, is the way Colin was supposedly fired. It was over a certain thing because, he wanted Luke to be alive or something like that. So I have trouble with all of this and like making sense of it, but that's on me. That's not really on anyone else. It's me trying to sort it out in my head. So, and I'm not going to get into that whole thing, but as far as like thoughts on things that jumped out at me, no, it seemed pretty much what we got. And it seemed to line up at least anyway. Right. So it seemed okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
there was enough here that was still familiar, I think. And some of the characters, were changed up a little bit. Like, for example, one character may have done something in what we saw in the Rise of Skywalker, but in Trevorrow's script, someone still did it. It just wasn't that person, right?
That's what I mean. That's what that's how I felt about the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really like anything eye-opening, I guess you could say, that jumped out at me. But there were a few things that were interesting.
Yeah.
But,
like Connix has a much larger role in all of this in the Trevorrow script. And I guess that,
which I didn't. To be honest, I wouldn't have mind that, to be honest. But if that's true, I mean, but go ahead.
I was going to say that. With the script, because if you look at the credits, both Trevorrow and J.J. Abrams and the other two writers, they're all credited, right? So that tells you that they still used and repurposed a lot of the script enough that he technically was able to get the credit for for writing it. So but there are some bigger changes in here. Maybe we can put a link if no one's read this. I think it's interesting. I mean, like one of the bigger ones also is this character of Solenoy or Solony. I don't know who that is. It's supposed to be the evil person, the bad guy in this script, as opposed to the Emperor, which is a whole nother.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Which is interesting. So that just makes me go back to when Kathleen and JJ said he was part of the plan.
All along is what they said.
Yeah.
And then we have this script. So, I mean, it's...
Unless this was code name for Palpatine, I don't know.
Maybe. Or it could just be that they were speaking at that point that he was in the plan all along once J.J. Abrams came on. I mean, she didn't really give a lot of context or give us anything. So,
in all fairness to Kathleen, and yet here I am defending her again, and I'm not her biggest fan. And even JJ is like, when you're planning out a movie, I'm sure everything gets blurred and you don't remember exactly. So when someone asks you a question and, and in this day and age, someone can say, I gotcha, that type of thing. But it's like, no, I was really kind of, speaking of this point, I wasn't really, but you could take it and twist it 700 ways. But anyway.
Yeah. We'll seek it out if you guys are interested in what could have been. It is an interesting read. And like to your point, though, it doesn't matter because the movie we got is the movie we got. Exactly. And that's what we got to live with. So like it or hate it.
Exactly.
Last thing, Janina Gavankar has recently...
I hope this is true. I do hope this one's true.
So they had asked her whether or not we would see Iden Versio in, I guess, the Mandalorian in season 2, right? There was this whole... they had mentioned that in Mandalorian, we were going to see more characters that had already been established in the live action. And so that got us all talking about whether or not we would see people like Ahsoka, and maybe we'd see Boba Fett, maybe we would see this person, that person. But someone asked her on Twitter whether or not we would see Iden Versio, and she responded very coyly that that's probably not a word, but she tongue in cheek, she said something about something to the fact that you'll need to ask Mr. Dave Filoni whether or not she would be in there. So any thoughts about whether or not she could make an appearance here, or is this somebody that you would want to see? Because, I mean, you got to admit, the character that we know from the video game, it looks exactly like her because she was mapped to look that way. So, I mean, there wouldn't be...
Well, this is why I say I hope it's true, because you could pull it off, you know what I mean? And it would work.
100% would work.
I don't know if we'll see her in season 2. Maybe season 3 if they could come up with something. See, here's the thing though, when they do stories, we always said it's kind of predictable, but yet they throw this surprise in at you and you're like, oh, okay, I wasn't going that way. I don't know how they would work in, we know from season 1 that he's got to go find Baby Yoda's, his kind, or he's got to find a way. And I imagine he's going to come across the resistance, well, not the rebellion still, or the New Republic, right? So, and she's a part of that at this point, right? I believe she's, it's 7 years after the Return of the Jedi. So, yeah, she would be around this time, I think.
Yep.
So, I'd imagine we'd see her and her daughter or something, maybe in season 3. That'd be interesting. I'm cool with it. You?
Yeah, I'd be down with it too. I mean, in any capacity, just to have her. I mean, we know she's a big Star Wars fan. She's a huge geek, and she's been real busy lately doing her own stuff. So good for her. Good on her for all the success that's finally coming her way. It's well deserved. So. I would totally be down with her. Now, whether or not I think she'll make it, I don't know. There wasn't enough in this tweet, and I don't think she would even. If she was, I doubt she would even mention it in this manner. You know what I'm saying?
I think she wants to.
Correct.
I think that's what that implies.
Oh, like, this is Dave. Classic Sam Jackson, right? Put me in the movie, dude. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So, to your point, maybe season 3. Or maybe she's a late ad in some way. I don't know. They could rewrite that. I mean, from what I understand, they've already started. They're almost done filming. So, because they're going to be in post-production pretty much all of the rest of this year. So,
yeah. And if they could bump up like that fall date to like July, that'd be great. Just saying. Yeah. It's not going to happen, but
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all fun stuff. I can't wait. We'll continue to speculate on who's going to make it to season 2 and season 3 and beyond of The Mandalorian, because that show is pretty awesome.
Yes, it is.
All right.
Kind of miss it.
I do.
But,
Yeah, let's get into our main show. And again, we're going to be talking about, I'm not going to give the disclaimer about, if you haven't watched Star Wars, or you might want to turn it off because it's spoilers.
Oh,
if
please,
you haven't seen it by now.
Even after night 1, I mean, I hate that. Like, everybody's seen it. Stop it. And if you listen to the podcast, I know you've seen it, and I don't have to give you the spoiler warning.
Yeah, we're beyond
that
spoilers.
Drives me. Yeah, it always drove me nuts, and I'll get flack for even saying this now. But
I'm going to talk to you after the show.
Yeah, I know. All right, let's get into this.
All right, so let's.
Before Albert yells at me,
let's start with the fact that Palpatine is back, just in general, because this is something coming off when we were at Celebration.
I get excited.
You got really excited, right? I mean, Mike Rondo was like all in. He was like giddy, skipping up and down the aisles at the Chicago Celebration. he was so excited that we heard the Emperor's laugh, and we got to see Mr. Ian McDiarmid himself and all that. But we went on stage then, and even when we did the Chicago the WGN radio broadcast, the question came up both from listeners and I think the host there was whether or not how is he back? How is he possibly back? And we had speculated on air that he was not, at least from my perspective. I truly did not feel that we were going to get a Palpatine in the flesh. I was convinced, and we had just come off the Moment comic, and that was pretty hot still at the time. So, I was convinced that this was going to be some kind of a spiritual thing, a possession of some sort, but that we would not in any way get a physical Palpatine presence. And that's exactly what we did. And so by that alone, it opens up all kinds of questions, right, about how he was able to even survive all of this. But I guess let me start there. Were you happy with the fact that he was physically back, or would you have been better off with him in a like possession type thing, or a spiritual ghost in some way, or could you have gone both ways or either way?
Well, I want to say I was I was going for the whole, he's going to be a spirit type thing. I didn't think we were going to get a physical form at any way, but apparently that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sort of zombie palps, as I like to call them.
We're going to talk about that too here in just a minute.
Okay. All right. Well, I got to say overall though, and I just want to throw this on the table now, and I'm trying not to be too negative, but I think when I look at the Rise of Skywalker and I watch it, I think it's better off that it probably would have been better if he hadn't been back.
Why do you say that?
Sure. Well, I just think it goes back to Anakin and cheapening that whole moment, because it's got to get resolved some way or another. I know you made a good point that like Anakin, and I think it was kind of cheap on their end, is where Anakin says, bring balance to the forces. I once did. All right, that's a cop-out, but you got to explain that to me. You have to find a way to explain. Here we go again, the whole prophecy chosen thing, and we open that whole can of worms again, because we had 4 years on this show debating that whole thing, and I don't want to do that again. But so that's kind of my issue. It's a me issue. It's not if you're fine with it, that's cool. I don't have a problem with that at all. It's me working it out in my head. That being said, obviously I accept the canon that Palpatine was back in some way. So all right, how would I have liked it? Well, I think I like what we got, so to speak, because, Ian, he's great. What the hell? You got to have him in the flesh, right? Yeah. So I don't know. I'm cool with either, I guess, at the end of the day, I would, to answer your question. Either would have been great. I would have liked to have seen, well, we'll get into the whole zombie thing in a moment when we get into that, because I just had a thought and it'll tie into that. But what are your thoughts on him coming back?
Well, I guess, headcanon's a really mean and nasty thing. We've talked about that so many times.
Yes.
So, I guess I don't have a problem with it. I think what it does for me is it just really, it rubbed me the wrong way, because it's just, for the casual fan, it was very easy to have the suspension of disbelief and just roll with it and go, man, that was awesome. He's back. That's cool. I remember that dude. He's evil, right? For us, we need way more than that, right? We need so much more now. And whether or not we get it is a whole nother topic. But you can't just do something like that. You can't just bring back Palpatine in the way they did and not expect fans like us or people that listen to podcasts or eat, breathe, live Star Wars all day long to not really have a lot of questions and not be okay with this and just, have some unrest over it. So to that end, I would say that I'm okay with it, but yeah, we're going to need some more answers. And maybe again, we'll talk about this right now, but let's try to figure out some theories or some thoughts, put some thoughts and speculation around how all this could have happened. And I'm going to start with Operation Cinder, because to me, to some extent, Operation Cinder does feel like it's at odds with Palpatine. Yeah, with Palpatine coming back. This goes with everything that we say. There are ways that you can explain it. A lot of these ways that I've tried to explain this and rationalize it in my head aren't that great, honestly, in my opinion. That's right. But Operation Cinder, I mean, the whole point of that was, the Palpatine felt like if the Empire, if an empire cannot protect its emperor, then that empire must be deemed a failure. It collapses not only because its central figure is gone, but because it must not be allowed to remain. That was the whole point, right? Those are Palpatine's words from Battlefield 2 in the story mode. So his whole point was to destroy this thing, burn it all down. No one gets anything, both, the people that were loyal to him and the people that were against him. And yet here we are now, he is back alive. And even more than that, we now have to believe that he started the First Order, because that was, when you read the Aftermath books, that was people like Brendel Hux and possibly Pryde, and I think it was Rax or whoever it was. They were all told to go, they needed to go out to the unknown regions, and that's where that was all going to start. And that's what that's how the First Order birthed, right? But now if Palpatine was around, or he was behind all of this, well, then it brings to question that in itself. And then it also brings the question that why would he burn everything down only to come back and have to bring it all back up later down the road? So I don't know. It's not jiving me. There's some disconnect in there, so I think. Am I right?
Well, I think, yeah, well, no, you're right. Cause I'm like you. All right. I can put things together, but I'm not that smart at the end of the day. So someone's got to explain this as best they can to me, in something, in a comic, novel, book, whatever form, even video game, I'll take at this point, something where you can explain all this away to me and where it's not, conflicting or whatever. I get, to some degree, JJ had to get to other things, so he couldn't really explain this, but this is kind of a big deal. You can't just gloss over this. And we didn't, maybe if we'd gotten a novel prior to the movie coming out, maybe that would have made more sense. I don't know, but here we are. We are where we are, right? So, I mean, there is one line, and I want to be completely thorough here, because there is one section of that the Aftermath series where it does go in and explain all this, but it just, if we take this at face value, then to me it then contradicts Operation Cinder. So there's three things going on here, and not all three are jiving. So here's the passage I'm talking about from the Aftermath series is this is Rax speaking out loud. He says, "Palpatine lives on. We will find him again, out there in the dark. Everything has arranged itself as our master foretold. All things move forward. The grand design, the sacrifices have all been made. You must be clothed in the raiment of darkness. The mantle of the dark side is yours to wear, or at least for a time. At least until we can find Palpatine and revivify him, bringing his soul back to flesh anew." So it is almost foretold that what we see in the Rise of Skywalker is going to happen. But then again, if that is true, that rubs up against Operation Cinder. So I don't know. Well, you could say the final order is the final culmination of Cinder, Operation Cinder, and the fact that he was really going to take out all those systems. He was just going to annihilate everybody and everything that was in his way.
Okay, I can see finally. That. An extension of extension of Operation Cinder was this next thing, and the Imperial Star Destroyers with the Death Star tech on them.
Correct. Yeah. And you saw in Battlefront 2 in the story where they were taking on the planets there. They were doing whatever they were doing there at the end there. I can't remember exactly. It was, 2 years ago? So you could kind of rationalize it that way. But again, is that a good enough answer? I don't know.
I don't know either. But hey, you know what? It's better than what I got. So we're going to roll with that.
Well, that's true. We'll go with it.
All right. So let's talk about his survival. Well, actually, you know what? Hold on. I want to talk about the Fortnite event, because this didn't come up. Obviously, anywhere in the movie. It wasn't in the opening crawl, apart from that one line of the dead speak. And I don't know that we really got a lot of, if you're a casual moviegoer, you may not have even known this existed or how it came about. The best we got was Poe talking about, the Emperor Palpatine was back, and, there was a message that had been broadcast or whatever else. But they actually released this message in the Fortnite game, which I thought was an odd thing. I mean, I guess Fortnite paid enough money, or whoever owns that company now, or whoever owns that video game IP, paid enough money to Lucasfilm to have this opportunity to say, we've got something very exclusive. There's an in-game event. You can go out there and watch the YouTube videos. But they actually did bring in Ian McDiarmid to do the voice. And it was really, all it was you got to hear him and hear the reference of the dead speak. And he says, "At last, the work of generations is complete. The great era is corrected. The day of victory is at hand. The day of revenge, the day of the Sith." And that was all that happened in that event. And so that's what was spoken by the dead. But it is interesting that he claims that the Sith had returned when it really was just one. Right? I mean, but...
Well, yeah, because he doesn't even offer Kylo to be Sith, right? Like, he doesn't give him any of that. Like, they don't even, like, get to that discussion, like, oh, you'll be a Sith Lord and, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, no, he didn't get any of that.
None of that. Like, nothing at all. Like, Kylo doesn't even get red eyes or yellow eyes, nothing like that. It was just like, hey, I'm going to offer you all this Sith stuff, but you're not a Sith, whatever. I don't know. It was very weird, that whole thing. Man, especially with the movie before, Kylo was like, forget the Sith and Jedi.
Yeah.
But, hey, what are you going to
do? Any thoughts about what prompted, like, the timing of this? If one of the things that's been, like, just rattling around inside my head is, when did Palpatine come back in the form that he's in The Rise of Skywalker? Do you think it's, like, he's been that way for years prior to, well, I mean, it'd have to be, right? From prior to prior to The Force Awakens, right? He would have to be in that position to be able to get inside Kylo's head and all of that, right? But even what the thing that rattles around my head is, like, what prompted him 1 year after The Rise of Skywalker to execute all of this and call upon? Or was it just Kylo Ren going out there, or was there something else that triggered all of this? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. What was the catalyst that caused
him to rise, or to say, okay, we're ready. Let's, raise the fleet and put all this in motion?
Well, it had to be Rey and him, like, in their connection or something. I'm not sure, because doesn't that conflict with the whole dyad thing? Like, he should have known the dyad between the two of them.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, we can talk about that too. I think we touched on it with Kylo Ren, but it didn't sound like he knew anything about the dyad.
No, that he was caught off guard, like, oh, hey, this works in my favor. I don't know. To be honest, I'm not sure what really triggered it, other than the events from The Last Jedi and knowing Luke was dead, maybe, and all that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe we'll get something there too. This is, again, there's a lot of holes here, and that's kind of I think what we're exposing more than anything is, and not exposing in a bad way. It's just, in order to get
we need answers.
Exactly. In order to get to some of these answers that we have, we're going to need more, because there's just not enough that was presented in the movies, obviously, or even in the comic books that we've gotten so far to kind of fill in the blanks for us. So, I don't know. Ponder that one, if you will. So let's talk about his survival. And I called this the Crane game because it was interesting that he was, being suspended.
It's ironic. He could be the puppet master, but now he's the puppet.
Now he's the puppet. I know, you've been waiting for that one.
Yeah, I have.
But yeah, he was, he's on a crane and not using kind of some, hover assistance. No spider legs for this dude.
It would have been cool if he had the spider legs, though,
yeah,
right?
That would have been cool.
That would have been like, oh, I saw this from Darth Maul.
Right, yeah, this worked really well for him.
Yeah, it worked good for him. And, I mean, I don't know. One aspect with his survival, I know there was recently something that was given away. I don't know if it was one of the writers, or I don't know if it was JJ or somebody kind of gave an idea of how he survived. I can't remember off the top of my head here. Maybe you remember what it was. It was something kind of simple, but as he says, the dark side is a pathway many consider unnatural there. So yeah, it's kind of a cheap play of things I in one aspect, but yeah, the dark side, let Maul live, right? So, and even Anakin with his hate. So I kind of see that helping out a ways. It's funny because every time I see like zombie Palpatine and stuff, and especially the first time I saw him, I remember that night in the theater, I'm thinking to myself, so when he fell, did the Royal Guards that went down in the elevator just say, oh, hey, there he is, picked him up and kind of just rushed him to the med bay? Or, like it just was happenstance that they were standing there and he fell right in front of them and, they kind of picked him up and took him away. I don't know. It's just something stupid that goes on in my head.
Well,
but,
he fell down a reactor. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like an elevator shaft. You know what I mean? Like a...
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we saw the blue smoke vapor that came out.
Let's talk about that.
When he fell.
Let's talk, because I don't think you and I have ever spoken about it. But what was your theory, even prior to this, or I should say prior to The Rise of Skywalker, go all the way back to when Rondo was like 5 years old watching Return of the Jedi. And That was a joke. You were a lot older than that. But anyways, maybe you weren't. But anyways, that blue smoke, essence, spirit, what was that to you as a kid or even older?
That was like him. That was his spirit or whatever. I always took it as a spirit. But when it goes up, it kind of gets rejected and goes back down like you see in
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. Same thing. Like it gets rejected and goes back down into the hole there, into hell. So I don't know how I feel about all of this. Is like, again, this is almost 30 some odd years of canon in my head here with him being the spirit kind of going up. But I always said, well, that's kind of how they could bring him back. I always said that. I didn't think they would because it's like, no, he's dead. You know, the older you got, he's like, nah, he's gone, he's dead. It's over with. But
and I think they kind of played up on that when the Dark Empire series came out. That was, I mean, they picked up on that immediately, and that was the way to explain that his spirit had truly left and just transferred into another clone body. Which, by the way, plug that series because I really liked the Dark Empire comic books that came out.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I mean,
to each his own. Of course. Oh, by the way, in the crane gate, my son asked me, he's like, well, how come? Where did the crane start? Because there's moments there's moments in there where you can see everything, and there's clearly nothing around. This is like an open arena, so if you will. And he's like questioning that. But anyways, the spirit leaving. I mean, that's how I always saw it as well. Interesting that you say it does go back down. I mean, that is true. Maybe it was returning back to his physical body that was still down there. I just assumed that he was just disintegrated though, and his spirit did leave. I like you had always felt like, okay, maybe there's a way that he would come back. That was until the Timothy Zahn books had come out, and that was my canon. And I was like, okay, I've kind of put all that to rest and said, oh, he's definitely gone. He's not coming.
See,
back.
This is. And I'm just going to bring this up now, is the problem I have with bringing him back is, okay, so now he survived somehow, and we don't have that answer. And maybe this is where we need that answer, is because the only other rational thing I could think of is that wasn't him. That was a clone.
No, that is a theory that's going around that was a clone in Return of the Jedi.
Which cheapens Anakin's
Oh, yeah. Don't even get me started. Because now I am with you 100%. If that's the case, that ticks me off because that really does poop all over the Chosen One prophecy and Anakin bringing balance to the Force. So I don't buy that one.
And I don't think they'll go there. But rational sense, you're like, well, unless his spirit was leaving and latched onto a clone that he had in the other closet in the throne room, and he went there. I don't know. No, because he's like no legs and he's like, half. I don't know. Maybe he got radiation poison from the reactor. I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting. So
you've called him Zombie Palpatine. Do you feel like this is truly a Star Wars zombie, like our first canon zombie?
It's the Red Harvest virus. That's what it is. It's radiation sickness on a level that we've never seen. I would consider. I say zombie. It doesn't really mean zombie, but he was kind of. He wasn't alive, but he wasn't dead. He was just there. Like he was just I don't know. It's like he was haunting his own body. Like
that's
like he was. Just,
if there's anybody that could possess himself, it would be Palpatine, right? Yeah. I think that's a legitimate theory. I think I would subscribe to is that he did possess his own body because when you see the body itself, before he sucks the power from the dyad and starts to regenerate. I mean, his fingers are all deteriorated, right? His eyes have gone. You can see his bones. I think they're exposed in some way there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that almost feels like they were trying to, if they weren't deliberately doing this, it does feel like they were deliberately doing this. They were trying to tell you that this is the same body because look how decrepit and deteriorated he is. And I mean, who knows? Maybe that body, how it survives the explosion, Return of the Jedi, I don't know. But let's just suspension of disbelief. Okay, so it lands there.
Unless I'm telling you, the royal gods got him before the explosion.
Maybe
I'm just saying
that would be that would be more plausible than his body surviving the freaking explosion. Because when you go back and watch it, you're like, there's no way any of that survived. Although there is that. No. Anyways, there's a slight chance.
Well, the Wayfinder survived somehow. It didn't even large out of its thing when it crashed into the plant. But hey,
true.
I'm sorry. We're being irrational. Go ahead.
No. Anyways, so I guess my belief is that is his original body, and that somehow he maybe maybe he had it in his head that he was going to repossess his body and things didn't go the way he wanted. And so he was kind of in a half possession, and I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, it was weird. Obviously, the crane was his life support. So
yeah, I mean, they had him hooked up to all kinds of stuff to keep him alive, keep him going.
Weird.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about the voices in your head, because he says he was Snoke. He says he was Vader. Do you take him at his word that he's been there since the beginning?
I have to. I mean, because he does the voices when Kylo's there. So I would assume, yeah.
So why Kylo?
A few things. Well, the one thing that makes me think, all right, so now that scene where I'll finish what you started makes me think that, well, the mask was talking to Kylo because it was Sidious doing it. The Snoke thing, I can't figure out in one sense of like, what was Snoke's purpose of being a puppet for him and a face, and like, where did he come up with this whole disfigured kind of body guy? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why would he create some guy that looks like that? That's all deformed and crippled and kind of, or is it a reflection of him because he was the same way and maybe they used his DNA or something? I don't know. Some mad science Sith stuff going on in that laboratory. So I don't know. I'd like an answer for that as well. But like, you see like Snoke just floating around in jars there. It's like, okay, so why were there even backups of Snoke? Like, I mean, Kylo kills him, but you could have just replaced him with another one. So why didn't we do that?
Yeah.
I don't know. These are little stupid questions.
No, they're not. And they're legitimate. Yeah. So we got one answer in the more recent, the Rise of Ben Solo comic book. We do learn that Snoke is disfigured the way he is because of something that occurred with Luke Skywalker. Now,
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Whether or not he gets, so one of two things are happening. The bodies that are in the cloning vat, if you will, whatever that is, if they are, and I would need to go back and look because I haven't watched it since that comic really came out. Well, actually I have. I just wasn't paying attention. But if the bodies in there look exactly like he does in The Last Jedi and they're as disfigured, then that tells us that whatever happened between Snoke and Skywalker impacted the DNA, because as they continue to reproduce him, they still look the same, right? Or the ones in the vat look pristine. They look like Snoke would normally look. And what we see in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi are just that same version of him that is disfigured because of what happened with Luke Skywalker. I don't know. We'll have to take a look into that a little bit more.
Well, what's the point of those other clones then?
I don't know, but here I do think I don't subscribe that Snoke is just a character or a figure or a person that was created from scratch for the purpose of converting Kylo Ren or Ben Solo over to the dark side, right? As part of this grand scheme. I truly believe that Snoke was his own person at some point, and whether he was working with Palpatine at some point, I don't know. I would imagine they did. They had to have connected in some way, but it feels like at least part of his own consciousness and his own personality is still in him. And I'm basing that solely on the comic book and not the movie, because if you watch the movies, you wouldn't get that. But if you read the comic book, he's got his own thoughts and opinions and everything else. I think that Palpatine is in his head as well. And I think he is persuading and brainwashing or doing whatever he needs to do to Snoke, very much in the same way that he's doing to Kylo, but he's using, obviously Snoke as a proxy to Kylo. So all that to say that I think that whoever Snoke was, he probably was a real person at some point. But when we finally see him in The Force Awakens and even in the comic book, by that point, Palpatine has 100% taken over and influenced him in a lot of different ways for the purpose of converting Ben Solo over to the dark side. That's my theory.
Okay.
How that happens, I don't know. Maybe we'll find out more again in future novels, comic books, or whatever else. But any reason to think that Palpatine wouldn't be in the heads of other people? Like why? Why Snoke? And so like who?
Going back to the prequels, I always assumed he was in Anakin's head, to be honest. Especially with the dreams. Like I figured he was manipulating that anyway. This is just my back in the day, because Palpatine growing up, you knew he was pulling all the strings and he was the manipulator, right?
Yeah,
So I assumed he was doing the same thing in this here, in the prequels and the Clone Wars and everything. Even probably with Padme and even the Jedi themselves, then they didn't realize that he was doing this. So, yeah, I definitely think he was messing with other people's heads.
Yeah, I like those. I would agree, and that'd be interesting to go back now with that, with the idea of that he is able to get into a lot of other people's heads. It'd be interesting to try to watch all the stuff that came prior to this and just try to find scenarios where we think maybe that would have been him or could have possibly been him. So I don't know. Maybe you can do that someday. The other thing about Snoke, and I've said this, I've posted this on social media and all that, but the big disconnect for me is in The Last Jedi, Snoke was wanting to kill Rey, and when we get to the Rise of Skywalker, he's not wanting to kill Rey. That does seem kind of inconsistent, but the best way I've found to explain that is my own theory of, if Snoke really is his own person, then maybe in that moment where he's telling Kylo Ren that he needs to, kill his mortal enemy or whatever it was, that was really that was Snoke talking and not necessarily Palpatine. But that does seem odd that they were inconsistent in that.
Interesting. I don't have an answer for you.
No, I know you don't. We don't have a lot of answers for a lot of stuff here. But if you have answers, let us know.
Yes, especially next episode, please.
Let's talk about the Final Order, because this is one where I really have a hard time, again, rationalizing or trying to come up with theories that would make sense.
You sound a lot like Mike Rondo.
No.
I got to say.
No.
Yeah, well, you sound more like, you're finding more things than I did. I'm very surprised, but go ahead. Continue, sir.
Yeah, maybe. From that perspective, probably right. But this fleet, so it's hidden under ice.
The magic
fleet. And this is going to sound superficial and we're really picking things apart here. But this whole, there was people going on and on about whether or not Palpatine went, because he does make a movement. He raises his hand, or I can't remember what it is he does. And suddenly the fleet comes up. And there was a lot of people speculating whether or not that was just him showing off how powerful he was, that he was able to lift all of these Star Destroyers. And there's hundreds, if not, I don't know, thousands of these things, probably hundreds. I don't believe that was him physically raising those out of the ice.
No, see, when he raised his arms, the guy that was in charge of telling the ships to launch hit the button. It was all theatrics. We've raised his arms. I got to hit the button.
Yeah, that's how I read it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got to rise up now because he raised his arm. All right, cool. We'll do that. That's how I took it. The theatrics. It's like the Wizard of Oz moment,
Yeah.
The guy behind the curtains, pushing the buttons and everything. That's what happened there.
But why under the ice?
Sort of.
Why build these ships under ice?
So the heat signature wouldn't be detected. I don't know.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Sure. We'll roll with that one.
Maybe. Well, sure. We'll go with that. Well, apparently all those people running the ships were the children from the occultists there or something, I think. Right? Did I read that somewhere?
I don't know. I really need to finish up the visual dictionary.
Because my other question is, all right, the First Order is stealing all the kids, then where are these part of that? Or is this the occultists had their own things going on there and maybe giant orgies at that place that they were. I don't know.
That is explained or at least mentioned in the visual dictionary, that these, the Sith troopers, they were all raised and all that out there in the unknown region. So they don't get into the details.
Well, maybe that's where I'm getting confused. Maybe that's where I'm getting confused.
No, I mean, the way it reads is that they were a self-sustained, independent group of clones, and they're not really clones, but they've been brainwashed, I guess. So they're not clones because well, I'm going to get into this and we shouldn't right now. But long story short is he didn't like the way the clones turned out. It's not necessarily the way the First Order is bringing up kids and brainwashing them. The Sith troopers are kind of I won't say genetically enhanced, but they're definitely conditioned, almost abusively, to the point where they are fiercely loyal. There's nothing that can go wrong, right? Because of the lessons learned from the Clone Wars and how the clones were. I mean, because Palpatine thought, okay, the clones, I'll build them out. they'll all be, loyal to me and they won't ever break rank. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So, yeah, that was his lesson learned. But yeah, I mean, they were kind of their own self-sustaining kind of group of people, if not a population, that he was raising for God knows how many years. So where's all the funding coming from?
Well, he stole a lot of money from the banking clan, if you remember.
Yeah.
I think that it was in season 3, the Bounty Hunter season, where he stole a lot of money. So he put some money away, So
he's just a good investor.
Save it, rainy day fund, that type of thing. Where did he get the materials, though? What?
I don't know, but that's a lot of materials to build that many ships.
Yeah. Or did he just, they built a bunch of, maybe he had a bunch of ships from the Clone Wars, kind of just retrofitted them all and kind of saved some billions. I don't know.
Or he could have been, building let's say he puts an order in for 25 Star Destroyers, and they're all done. 24 head out to the main Imperial fleet back in the day, and one heads out to the unknown regions and gets parked underneath the ice for plans yet to be determined.
Could be.
Because they do look like the old models. I mean, it wasn't like they were a new model outside of being retrofitted with the Death Star tech.
That's what they did. They said, you know what? We got all these mothballed ships. We're going to take them out, and we're going to retrofit them with the giant cannon, and we'll call it a day. I really don't know. I mean, I think we're being too rational and wanting to figure. I mean, we're just not going to get an answer for this one.
Yeah. There was a moment in there where he reached out to an old friend, General Pryde, which I thought was cool. I really liked that idea that there was, somebody like Pryde.
Who is this guy? This is the problem I have with. I don't have any emotional connection to Pryde at all.
No, he'll probably get retconned into a book somewhere or a comic or something. But I mean, that's Star Wars. They've done that for a lot of other characters.
I know, but couldn't we find some old, geezer what's this? Veers, Commander Veers. Couldn't we get him or something? And that would have been good, but we didn't get that. Although I always felt like he felt a little sorry being in that whole situation where he's like, man, I bit off more than I could chew in this whole thing.
Oh, who's that? Veers?
But yeah, Veers. He was like, oh man,
Yeah.
I just wanted to be a moisture farmer, right? But here I am.
So I don't know. It's the idea that there was somebody still loyal to him, which I thought was cool that Palpatine reached out to him directly in that one quick brief scene.
It's me. Hey, Pryde. Remember me? Yeah. Hey, we go way back. Listen here, I need a favor.
That's pretty good.
Anyway,
we'll have to have you do that more often here on the show.
No, never again. But go ahead.
I don't know. I guess the question of whether there was anything more to that character. The only thing that, because the character is interesting because they showcased him, and he only had really one thing that he did that was truly defining apart from dying, and that was killing Hux.
Kill Hux. That was it.
The way he killed Hux was reminiscent of the way things used to be in the old Empire. Like, what? This guy's a traitor? Boom, dead. Next, right? I mean, they just blew. I mean, Vader blew through his officers left
Which is
and right.
ironic because Hux killed his father because he thought his father was weak, right? Kind of, if I remember right in the book, the Phasma book, he got him. Yeah.
Well, he was in the way. Also, he wanted power.
Well, yeah, that too. So it made sense, I guess.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, apart from that, I didn't. There really wasn't a whole lot there. I just wish they would have done more with Pryde. I mean, if they were going to have him in there, it would have been cool to see more of the old ways, or see him kind of take a different role, or step up in more ways than he did. I just would have liked to have seen him act as the old school Empire. I'm taking over all of this once Hux was dead, and now we're going to do things this way because this is how they used to be. And Daddy Vader would have been proud of us, and Palpatine's going to be proud of us. And I get there's only so much you can do in a movie with this many characters, but I don't know. Maybe we'll get something later.
Yeah. I don't know. I just, if they'd introduced the movie earlier, one movie earlier, maybe they'd be, I don't know. But, it is what it is.
Let's talk about the very end of the movie because, Palpatine's in here, but he's not, obviously throughout the movie in any way. But at the very end, he's wanting Rey to come to him and makes mention that, her friends are going to follow. And that's obviously a huge parallel between Luke in Return of the Jedi and his friends coming out there, and it was very similar, right? He had set everything up. He had her, front and center, and pitting her against making a decision to, join him in a way. It's a little bit different, but join him or allow her friends to die, essentially. And that's exactly, and it was very cool because in, Return of the Jedi, Luke's looking out through this little 3x5 window. Yeah. In this one,
he got a skylight.
This one,
yes, you like my new skylight, Pryde? Yeah.
In this one, he opens up the, I don't know what it is, the arena, the stadium.
Yeah.
So that she can witness it all.
They got a retractable roof, man.
I know. Those aren't,
spared no
those
expense.
are not cheap. If you're a football fan, those get kind of costly.
Yeah.
But anyways, so very similar, I guess, in the parallels. And he makes that comment about long have I waited for my grandchild to come home. I mean, what a typical grandparent to kind of guilt you into the fact that you don't come visit or say hi.
Yeah, deadbeat grandparent. You don't come to the home anymore.
You don't call.
Yeah.
You're waiting all day long, all week.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even know you existed, sir. But whatever.
So
not to mention you're kind of creepy, man.
Yeah.
I just, you've gone beyond. Yeah. Move on.
The power that he demonstrates here is interesting too.
Oh, God mode.
Yeah, because I don't like. This where I'm trying not to be negative here, but I just have a lot of questions.
Yeah,
like,
Mike Rondo.
How did
stop
he?
it.
No. I just have very sincere questions that I don't have answers to, and that's where the frustration's coming from. It's not coming from a place of this sucked. It's coming from a place of I need
how and why.
Exactly.
I need to
and
know.
I don't have any of that stuff, so I'm just left to my own stinking devices here. But the fact that he's as powerful is because even before he does the whole EMP thing and fires all the lightning up in the sky, which was a whole nother level of power that we've never seen from him. He demonstrates a power that we've only seen in The Last Jedi from Kylo Ren, but we hadn't really seen from Palpatine. And I'm trying to think now back to the Clone Wars because I'm like, oh, maybe I didn't think far enough back, but the ability to freeze people. Yeah, because he brings them literally to their knees against their will. I mean, they've got lightsabers drawn.
Well, technically, did he do it in the Mandalorian arc when he went to go meet Savage and Maul? Because remember when he arrives, there's two. Well, of course, he force chokes them, but does he put them to their knees? I can't remember.
I think
he does push Maul and Savage against the glass. Like he pushes them up against the glass. So technically, I guess he has.
I think maybe
I don't know, I'm grasping.
No, you're not, because you make a good point. But I think maybe the key differentiator there is the fact that I think at that point they were not they were not defensive. I guess they weren't ready to defend themselves. Yeah. But you've got arguably two of the most powerful force wielders now standing there, lightsabers drawn, defending themselves. And without hesitation, he's able to bring it. The only thing that I could think of that was even close to this was the Mortis arc, where Anakin brings the daughter and the son to their knees. Remember that? Of course you do. But
yes, of course.
But I mean, again, now we're talking about power.
Well, I mean, at that moment. Well, I'll say this. I'll bring this up then, and I mentioned it. I think last episode there was that reference of him being like the father, and then the son and the daughter there. Is it because the dyad's in play here, and this is what kind of clues him in to the whole dyad, other than, him sucking the life force out of them there, and, he was able to amplify his power as well, because the three of them are there. They all kind of make this trio, so to speak. Is that, I don't know, maybe I'm grasping at straws here.
I see what you're saying.
But
the fact that all three of them were there somehow magnified his powers.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
Not.
I'm going with the whole Mortis thing there, but
Well, I mean, and so I mean that's the level at which he was at, which I didn't think Palpatine would be capable of, and I guess even if he was, how? But I don't know.
Well, hey, even a Dark Lord needs his fun, Albert. I mean,
true.
I know it's creepy to some, but man's got to do what he's got to do. I don't know. I can't explain that.
So what do you?
I don't know.
All right, here's another question I got for you. So what do you think about him pitching old Skywalker? And I'm using air quotes here. Skywalker
That's
down.
Probably not the word you should be using. But go ahead.
Well, he says it himself. He says, "So as I fell down the hole or whatever, so does the last Skywalker."
Yeah.
So I mean, that's not my words; those are his words. But I'm saying, like, dude,
Yeah,
Matt, you still mad, bro? What's going on here? Why are you still ticked off that you got thrown down a shaft?
Well, I mean, look at me. I'm like no legs, falling apart, fingers falling off. You know, I kind of am pissed, just to say the least. You know, so I mean, I don't know. I thought that was funny, but I thought it was like, is he trying to be funny here? Like, is he?
Why didn't he throw both of them down?
Yeah, well, that's true. Well, I don't know, because he wanted her dead 1 minute, then he wants her to live the next. At
that point, he was like reborn.
Well, I don't need you.
He didn't need either one of them.
Didn't. That's true. That's true. I don't know. Maybe he felt like, well, I have plans for. I don't know. I don't know. He just. I don't know. That it was like, is he trying to be funny there? Like he was trying to throw a comedic thing because. I'm like saying is you got to ask yourself. Well, Kylo wouldn't know he got thrown down a pit.
That's what I said. It's like he just took it all out on that poor dude. You're a Skywalker. Like, yeah, fine. I've been waiting for this one. Watch this.
Kylo's like, what?
Yeah. No idea what happened here, but okay.
Oh, what did I do? What? Yeah, exactly. All right, we're getting silly.
We are. Sorry. Let's get serious here. Force lightning, the EMP of the ships. We talked about that being very powerful. Obviously, we've never seen anything like it.
By the way, Nine died. Horrible. Another classic character dying for no reason at all.
I can't remember. So we're talking about.
I think I saw it, to be honest, because there was a moment where they show him, right? And they're falling.
I've not seen it, but I've seen other people go, I finally saw it tonight when I watched it. So I'm going to take Twitter's word at face value that it's out there.
Did the ghost crash and die?
No, because we see that it pulls in at the very end of the movie.
Oh, of course.
Anyways, Neen Num, for those of you that are wondering what the heck we're talking about at this point in the show.
Did the Razor Crest survive?
Yes.
But anyway. Okay, good.
That made it out.
All right,
there was, who
Baby
was it?
Yoda piloting?
No, stop it.
No.
Who was it? The writer? Somebody said Neen Num is dead. And then the actor that played him disputed that and said, well, that was never conveyed to me. I don't believe it. Did you see that part of it?
Oh, he's going Mace Windu there. No, I didn't see that part of it. All right, let's get back on track before we turn this into a 10-hour show.
Well, we're almost done here, so everybody would be happy to turn this thing off.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about all the Sith. Again, literally,
I don't. Yeah, well,
is he really all the Sith at this point? Did you take it at face value that he is all the Sith? Because I take it at face value that she is all the Jedi, because they all talked to her and it seemed like they all helped her.
Yeah, but see, there's a difference.
Is it metaphorically?
I think it's metaphorical because the Sith aren't supposed to retain, although here we are with Palpatine doing his thing, right? So, and then you got the occultists chanting and acting wacky. I don't know. I mean, I would say yes. It would have been cool if they had his voice sounding like, you know how the father had like two voices at once, and like Mother Talzin, like two voices at once. You know how they had that. Yeah. I don't know what you would call that, double speak or something.
Where you could hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's got two voices speaking at once. It would have been cool because then you could have said, oh, well, there's kind of that other out-of-body kind of moment or like feeling to him. But we didn't get that. Because why would you do that with Ian? Because Ian plays the Emperor so goddamn well, right? You don't want to add, you don't
want to take away from it, right? You don't want to steal from it.
Yeah, exactly. So I can kind of see that being why they didn't do that. So I don't know. I would take it. I don't know, when you hear the occultists like chanting, you kind of get the feeling like, oh yeah, all right, they're kind of all in him. Like, I don't know. I guess yes, I would have to say yeah. I'd have to take his word for it.
I would too, but again, it does bring up a lot of questions now because this is something we've not seen before. It would,
and they're not supposed to retain anything, right? Unless it's in an object. But are they in the crane? Maybe they're all in the crane. I don't know.
Yeah, and how did it? How did it happen? Like, we don't have anything that I'm aware of anyways. And I would need to go back and look at Legends because there's Legends like covered everything. There's probably something in Legends that I'm not remembering right now, but because like, anyways, there's probably something in Legends that explains this, but the idea that they somehow have all come together in some way. And we're talking about, we're saying that we're taking him at his word that he truly is all a Sith now, because I can make an argument for this is just metaphorically speaking, but
Well, yeah, because throughout each generation, as they were in the shadows, that's the point of it, is that that knowledge kept getting passed down to the next, and the next. And that was Palpatine, the last one. And now he's trying to pass it on to Rey, sort of.
And his original plan was to call Rey over there. She was supposed to kill him so that his essence could transfer into her. So from that perspective, I do take him at face value that somehow, I don't know, maybe he's been living with all the Sith.
Was he just saying that?
I don't, maybe he was. It's true.
Was he just saying that just to sound like a big shot to her? Like, I think he could have passed himself into her. Like that, I believe.
Okay.
But all the other, like Bane and everybody else behind, no, I can't see that.
Because they would have
being a thing.
So they would have had to transfer all of themselves into him then, right? Prior to this. Or he would have had
like when
found
he
a way
died,
to do it.
Well, that's part of the whole, when he falls down the shaft, whoever finds him and they revive him and, all the Sith are in him. I don't know. I mean, because the Sith aren't supposed to live like that or retain any of that. I mean, I get it. Their essence is part of like a helmet or something like that, or an object, but not like this.
Yeah.
I mean, at least that's what it used to be. I don't know. Is that a problem with you? Do you think that's an issue if they kind of, I'm just basing it off of what George said, because Sith are selfish that they could never make that sacrifice where they would get that gift of, being a Force ghost or holding on to their entity, so to speak. So
yeah, I mean, the old part of me says I'm not okay with it. The new part of me says I'd be okay with it.
Well, I got to live with it.
I got to live with it, but you need to explain it to you.
Yeah, I think that's our biggest problem. But at the end of the day, is we just need clarification on a lot of these things. And these, some of these things that we're talking about, I haven't even brought up other things that it's probably going to pop off in my head when I watch it again. So, but anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to, So if it is all the Sith, physically, some explain to do, metaphorically, whatever, then it's no big deal. Let's talk finally, I guess, his death. Seemed too quick. Like he was whole for all of about 5 minutes. And,
well, that whole thing just seemed.
And then his face got melted off, which I thought I liked. I liked that.
That was like
another Raiders reference.
Yeah, exactly. So I was okay with that, but again, I mean, that was to show that no, he is really gone now.
Yes,
like he is not coming back now.
But he died on arguably a very Sith. Like planet, and there's mysteries.
Yeah, but everybody else got vaporized too, like the occultists and all that. And, I don't know.
No one's ever truly gone, Mike.
Yeah, well,
yourself included, because look at you right here back again.
Yeah, I am prime example. Yep. Yes. Yeah.
All right. Let's take it to the final thoughts on the Phantom Menace himself. Do you think we're ever going to get a backstory on what happened and how we got here with Palpatine?
Yes.
Any preferences there?
I do.
You want a movie? You want a comic? You want a novel?
I would prefer, I would say a novel would probably be best.
Pablo tweet?
Probably.
No, I'm kidding.
Probably be best. Although I'm open to if we get another show between Return of the Jedi and the sequel trilogy, and maybe we have those episodes where we kind of get hints of what he was doing or how that all plays out with on the First Order side, but something like that. I'm open to that, but I'm also open to like a mini series. Maybe 6 movies, I guess, or 6 shows of basically explaining all this and then kind of leaving it at that, and we move on on Disney Plus. I'm open to that stuff, but I don't know. We'll see. I just hope they do something. I would hope they would do a Darth Plagueis, Darth Sidious novel, and we kind of go from there and kind of make that all canon and stuff. But I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I honestly don't have a preference. Like, I just want answers.
At the end of the day, as long as we get answers, that's all that matters.
Yeah, I mean, you can give me bullet points on somebody's post, tweet, or something. I'd be totally.
You can have a panel at Celebration just explaining it all.
Exactly. But yeah, I think we're in dire straits of having some of these answers. And there's certain things, like I said, and then, don't get me wrong, I'm not one of these people that has to have the answers to everything. I'm fine.
This is a big
deal
thing, because they made him a focal point of, and this flirts with a lot of the canon with Anakin's sacrifice and all that. So that's why it's a big deal, at least to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I need something. I need answers. I don't need all the answers to everything in Star Wars, but this is one where I do have answers to questions because I need answers because I think it's going to play off later down the road. I mean, we're talking about very huge, monumental things have happened with Palpatine that are going to have to, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, they're going to have to explain if they want to pick up this series beyond this, because there's so many things have changed now in the era that is going to exist post the Rise of Skywalker. And it may be beyond my lifetime when that comes out, but at some point, I think they are going to have to explain, unless they just jump forward, thousands of years or hundreds of years. It's going to be hard to pick all this stuff up without a lot of backstory and explanation. I think there's just too many questions that are out there still.
Well, not only that, I mean, you could technically say it's the Palpatine saga now. Yeah, so there's that. Yeah. That's a whole other. I just had to be negative. I just had to say.
No, I mean, there's plenty of arguments that say this is it the Skywalker series? Is this the Rey trilogy? Is it the Ben Solo trilogy? Right? Is it?
Well, in fairness to Lucasfilm, the saga itself has always changed. It was Luke's, then it was Anakin's, then it was the Skywalker one. Now it's whatever this is now. So I'll leave it at that.
Final question of the night.
Okay.
Is this the end of Palpatine?
Yes. Although I think we'll see him in like a book or a novel or something, the things that I just mentioned to explain how he lived or whatever. But I don't think we're seeing him. And of course, next week they'll announce he's going to have a movie. No, right. I don't know. We'll see. I think he's done. Fini.
I tend to think that.
Oh boy.
I don't think Palpatine will ever be back either physically. I don't think he'll be back ever in a physical form. But I like the idea that somebody
finds a holocron.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying like Palpatine is one of the strongest, if not the strongest, dark side user. I mean, there's a lot of, and I'm even going into Legends here, so I'd be willing to debate this with anybody. But there are things that Palpatine did that no other Sith Lord has ever done. And even some of this craziness that's going on in, I know you're not going to want to hear this, cover your ears, but some of the craziness that's going on in SWTOR right now, it's like another level of evilness and power that we've never, I mean, it just would blow your mind in terms of what's going on, right? But there are things that Palpatine has done that have made him arguably the strongest, most powerful Sith that has ever existed. And when you've got somebody like that on that level, somebody like him, somebody like a Momin, I think there's an argument to be made that he could still exist, maybe not physically, but I have a hard time believing that somebody that powerful would just go away and never come back. I find him being somebody that would be a haunting spirit of some sort, or his body is possessed now, some artifact somewhere. And later down the road, maybe years from now, again, when you and I aren't here and Star Wars is still going strong, someone decides to pick up a thread where they think they're going, or they toy with the idea that, this artifact comes into possession of somebody, and there's a whole storyline of where Palpatine's back, but he's not really back, but is influencing other people still again. I mean, I think there's a story there. I just don't know that we're ever going to see it in our lifetime. So I just have a hard time thinking that he is truly gone, given how powerful he was, even up until the very end there.
Okay.
All right. You just accepted that. That's very...
I'm just... no, that's fine. We're cool.
I like your indifference. Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, we'll end the main show. Let's talk about the network stuff before we go here. I have finished Cantina Radio number 3. So I plan on recording that this weekend for our Patreon subscribers. For those of you that aren't aware, Cantina Radio is a kind of like a radio show that I do. We play music that is Star Wars inspired or inspired by Star Wars in some way. And I've been waiting to do this one because this one is, I've done one on rock music. I have done one on Christmas music, which was the last one that we did in December. And for January, I picked rap. And you are not going to believe how many songs, rap songs, are out there.
Really?
No, I'm not kidding. Listen, there are so many. Like, I have more rap songs than any other genre in my playlist of Star Wars inspired songs that I've collected over the years. And it's everything from like minor references. They make maybe one word, they make a reference to being a Jedi or Yoda or There's one that I got that mentions Kenobi. And some of these are from like really prominent rap people, like rap stars. So I can't wait to do it. And then I've got other songs that are truly rap songs, and they're rapping about Star Wars, which is really funny and really cool if you're into that kind of thing. So anyways, that's coming out for our Patreon subscribers. Can't wait to do it.
Let me know when you get to the punk one. let me know.
I don't think I have enough to put a show together. I can do several rock shows, and I have several rock shows in the making, but I don't think I have enough punk to put together an entire punk dedicated show. I'm sorry.
I see.
I don't know what to tell you. Talk to write your congressman.
Yeah, I will.
So beyond that, what else we got on the network? What's going on? You got any announcements? Anything brewing? You always got something going on over there.
Yeah, I got another show.
What?
That I'm doing. Oh yeah.
What is this called?
Yeah. This is 3 Quarters to Play, which is basically me talking about my love for my arcade 1-up and all things 3/4 size home arcade, so to speak. So
retro gaming stuff.
Yeah, retro gaming. Yeah, exactly. So and by the way, they just arcade 1-up is going to release a Star Wars pinball this winter, I think. Coming up, not this winter. I mean, in the Christmas season, I think.
Oh, very nice.
But anyway, it's not the it's a little minor production. It's nothing fancy as of yet. It's only like 20 minutes long of me just talking about certain things and stuff. So if you're into arcade 1-up or retro gaming or of the like, then go check that out. It's on the network and all that stuff. You'll be able to find it soon enough. So that's it. That's all I got.
Is that out now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I got 3 episodes in the can already, sir.
What in the world? How are we advertising this? Maybe I'm just out of touch. I've been doing a lot of travel.
Well, no, not. It's kind of on the down low. Like I'm kind of a gentle phasing into the network and stuff. So,
cool.
Because I'm not sure if I really like my performance just yet. Because, when you do a podcast by yourself, talking to yourself, it's just kind of hard to, I don't know, find your way sometimes. But, But in any case, well, that's what I'm doing. So, matter of fact, I got another episode I'll be recording this week, and I'll have it out next Monday. Monday's when it comes out, every Monday, every other Monday, or whenever I get to it.
Okay.
But it'll be on a Monday.
3 Quarters to Play is the name of the show.
Yes, it is, sir.
Awesome. Good luck to that.
Yes. Thank you.
Shout outs for Discord. We had 2 people join since our last show. Common White Girl. That's the name. And
she's a streamer, isn't she? She's a gamer, isn't she? I believe she is.
I don't know. Is she?
I thought she was. I thought she streamed something. I can't remember what it is. It's a game I don't play because I'm playing Arcade 1-Up. But go ahead.
Excuse me.
No, Albert is dying here. We got Rob Dryman is the other guy on Discord, so I'll take over for you there, Albert. So yes, thank you guys for joining us on Discord, and you guys should join us on Discord if you want to join in the fun, especially if you're into Arcade 1-Up. I got 3 Quarters to Play is also a chat on our Discord channel, so hop in, join the conversation. We got lots of things going on, and Albert, are you back from dying from your cough?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe.
Oh, maybe he's not. Well,
did you?
Well, I'll plug the. Yes, sir.
Did you update the Discord link?
I will after this show.
It seems like
definitely do
it
that.
seems like there's always people going, "Oh, I want to join, but the link's dead." So we'll fix all that.
Yes. Well, I hope. Just remind me to do that.
Yeah,
but anyway,
maybe. The other thing I want to do is plug Patreon, because we haven't really, we don't go out and beg you guys for money and all that stuff. But I just want to mention that we do have a Patreon page. It's in the link. It's in the show notes every week. And not only do you get the Cantina Radio stuff, at some point we'll get off our tails here and do our After Dark as well. And then you also get exclusive, you get like a early release of the shows. Although that didn't work this week because we were running late and we mentioned all that. But generally speaking, you get the show, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 days before it hits the general release, which is on Tuesdays at like 5 p.m. Central. So, but all that, it does help us. It pays the bills, and we can't thank you guys enough that are currently Patreon subscribers. So if you like what you're hearing and you want to support the show in more ways than one, please hit that link and donate. We'd appreciate it.
Yes. And thank you.
And thank you.
That's all I can say, is because it's a humbling thing that you guys help out the show.
Yeah,
but anyway,
we're getting paid for this? Not really.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say we're getting paid for it, but it certainly keeps the lights on.
No, it does. All right. Before we go, next week, we are going to be doing another Rise of Skywalker. Well, not another. We're doing a listener question and answers. This is all going to be focused around the Rise of Skywalker. So we've got a ton of questions already from our Discord users. I didn't even do anything on Facebook or social media yet. So I'll try to do that this week, although it may be a little too late. So if you guys submit your questions there, you can obviously do it through social media. You can send us an email, of course. But we will put together a list of all of our the questions that you've submitted, try to give you some legitimate answers. I'm using air quotes. And as always, the Patreon folks get their questions answered first. And if we run out of time, then no, we don't do the other one. So another reason to subscribe.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
I think that's it.
That's it, sir.
We're
out of here.
Anything else before we go? Any last words? Last words of wisdom?
No.
Well, the show was supposed to be called All the Senate, and I thought it was clever. We're not going to do that, so.
Yeah. It certainly wasn't clever.
All right. Well, with that, my uncleverness will go. We'll see you guys next week.
You're still listening? Wow. That's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.